Thank you for being here for this episode of the Canmore Trust Podcast. We will be dealing with the subjects of mental ill health and suicide, and so your safety is paramount to us here at the Canmore Trust. If anything of today's discussion activates concerns within you about your own safety or that of others, would you please reach out? You can call Papyrus on their 24/7 Hope line on 0300 102 2470, or engage with Papyrus by texting HOPE, H-O-P-E, to 88247, or by emailing Pat, P-A-T, at papyrus-uk.org. Or you can call Samaritans day or night at any time on 116 123. In Scotland, Breathing Space is a confidential phone line for anyone over the age of 16 who's feeling low, anxious or depressed. The number for Breathing Space is 0800 83 85 87 and is available Monday to Thursday, 6 p.m. till 2 a.m. and Friday, 6 p.m. till Monday, 6 a.m. They also have a web chat service available Monday to Friday, 6 p.m. till 2 a.m. and Saturday and Sunday, 4 p.m. till 12 a.m. The Canmore Trust's website, www.thecanmoretrust.co.uk, has an extensive list of resources for anyone seeking help on any aspect of well-being, mental ill health or suicide. Would you please use it? And you can engage with the Canmore Trust by emailing admin@thecanmoretrust.co.uk. So if you're struggling, please reach out. And if you're concerned about someone else, please reach out. Thank you. And so it's my absolute delight to turn to my guest for today, someone that I've come to know very well, someone whose story I have appreciated, and we've walked something of a journey together, Nicky Foley. Nicky, it's great to have you with us on the Canmore Trust podcast. We're going to engage at so many levels today, and I'm very excited about that discussion. But can we kick off, please, by me asking the inevitable question? Who is Nicky Foley? Please tell us something of yourself.
Not sure I know anymore. I'm Nicky, and I am a lone parent to two neurodivergent sons. And in the process of one of my sons getting diagnosed, I also realised I was neurodivergent and went on quite a long, complicated process to get diagnosed myself. I've got a podcast, which is my hobby. I've got a radio show, hospital radio show for carers, because they're in neglected group as well. And so, I'm currently a master's student at Stirling University, which I wasn't actually going to do, but you're kind of the reason I'm doing that.
Well, thanks. I get blamed for many things.
So I got a first class honours degree, and I'd always wanted to do that. That was my goal. And until I got my diagnosis, I couldn't do that. And so that enabled me to do that. And then I was like, this is amazing. What am I going to do now? And then obviously I'd met you, made a film with you. And then I was like, I'm going to need to continue this apparently.
Yeah, and you've done a great job.
Thank you.
It's been such a delight, both the podcast and particularly the film. They have had such an impact on many people that I know, and we share them widely, and really grateful for them. We've also laughed a lot on the journey, despite the fact that we've both faced significant struggles and difficulties. We've laughed a lot, and that's been a really therapeutic thing. Hopefully for both of us, it certainly has been for me. Your first degree was in what?
Film and media.
Ah, okay. And is that something you'd always wanted to do, or you'd fallen into, or?
No. So because I was undiagnosed neurodivergent as a child, I didn't have many friends. I think I had two my whole childhood growing up. And because I was isolated, I used film as a way to communicate, and basically just made animations and things like that to try and express how I was feeling. And to me, films, I learned, which is terrible now, but I learned everything I pretty much know emotionally and about relationships and things like that from films, because the world made no sense to me and I didn't understand how to do any of that stuff. I'm so sorry, I'm wiggling about in my seat. But I was really lost, and I guess films just taught me how to be a person, which looking back is a horrendous way to learn how to be a person, because rom-coms and things like that aren't reality. They're not true.
Okay.
So I've had to relearn how to be a person again, hopefully better now.
So coming to the neurodivergent diagnosis later in life, that's been a good thing in that you now understand a bit more about who you are. Yes.
Transformational, because obviously I knew I was different and I knew I wasn't like everybody else, but I didn't know why. And I had a car accident and I got diagnosed with OCD after my car accident. And I've got PTSD. I've got several comorbidities. I think it's rare that people have a neurodivergent condition and don't have, so OCD is obsessive compulsive disorder. I'm also dyslexic, which I got diagnosed at uni just before I started when they did like a screening test on me. But yeah, I'm autistic. I've got ADHD and sensory processing disorder. So there's a lot going on. And so I knew a lot of the things that I was doing, thinking and feeling as a child were not the same as the people around me.
So I'm going to use a term which you may not like, but if I can call myself neurotypical, which probably isn't actually the reality of the
Not
situation.
for you, no.
No, exactly. Yeah, yeah. And when you sit with someone who is neurodivergent and has a great experience of that, I think there are traits that I recognise within myself. But to the neurotypical world, if there's such a thing, can you explain what it feels like to be you growing up as someone who is not neurotypical? What does the world feel like?
So my son used to play a game when he was young at school, and they used to take a little person, whatever, animated thing, and drop it in a different country. And you'd got to look at road signs and things like that to try and figure out where you were and how to get back. You didn't have any money or any way of getting there. And to be honest, that's the best way I can describe it to anybody.
Oh, wow.
I just feel like somebody picked me up from somewhere else and plonked me in this place. And I'm just like, I don't understand anything anybody's saying to me or what they actually mean or what they want from me. And yeah, I didn't get any of it.
Wow. And I think what's interesting for me to understand is, how do you then realise that you're different from the person that you're sitting next to in your primary class or your secondary school subject? How do you realise that, and what do you deal with that moment when you realise
because they
I'm
weren't
different?
thinking about dying or their parents dying or like the fact when a school trip was going to happen, I thought the train was going to crash and I was going to die and I wouldn't go on the school trip. I actually put eyeliner under my eyes and faked being ill so I didn't have to go on that school trip. And none of my people in my class or anybody around me was saying things like that or acting like that. They all seemed to have no problem sitting in a class or a room like this with lights in that are hurting my eyes and are flickering, and the sound was really loud. And they seemed oblivious to it, and I was just sitting there like in awe of them, like how are you doing that? And like in teenage years and stuff, when they went to nightclubs, I was like, why would you do that? The floor was sticky, it smelled funny, there was lots of people that kept touching me, and I don't particularly like being touched.
Yeah.
And I was just like, what am I doing wrong? What is wrong with me? Because clearly I'm incapable of acting like everybody else. And I wasn't good at masking back then because I didn't understand what that meant. I just thought I could just be who I was and get along in the world, which I've come to realise is not true at all.
Yeah. So if I suggest to you that it's been a journey of understanding, is that an acceptable suggestion to you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And because obviously when my first son was born, he was exactly like me. I didn't think there was anything wrong with him either. And it wasn't until my youngest son was born 10 years later, and the nursery nurse said to me, the person at his nursery, she was like, I've just done this course on ADHD and I think your son might have it. And I was like, what is that? And that was the first I'd heard about it. And that was 21 years ago.
Okay. So you've mentioned your family. You have two sons. You're a lone parent. You're a carer. Does that make the world an easy place? Does that make the world
I think you
a
know the
tough
answer to
place?
that.
Yeah.
Incredibly tough place, yeah, because not only am I managing leaving the house, which for me is danger, and everything that entails just going about my daily life is dangerous to me and feels scary and like something bad's going to happen. So I have to manage that. Then I have to manage my emotions so that they don't impact on the boys. And then I have to manage their emotions so that there's a big difference between my youngest and my eldest, because my eldest has only recently been diagnosed at 30 and my youngest was diagnosed when he was 4 years old. And I can't even begin to tell you the difference that has made to them accepting themselves and understanding themselves and knowing who they are and being able to manage themselves and their behaviour.
So what does it feel like when we are hearing that to have a diagnosis to start the journey, the neurodivergent journey, that young people are waiting 2.5, 3, 5, 6 years. Some waiting lists are closed. What does that feel like to you as a parent of 2 neurodivergent sons?
It doesn't feel that bad to me, in the sense that I know not everybody is capable of this, and I'm not saying it's bad if you can't do this, but I taught myself. I research things. I get obsessed with things, obviously, and I just research and research and research until I know something, until I've learned something. And I realised very early on that even when my son got diagnosed when he was 4 years old, and that was seeing psychiatrists and hospital trips and excuse me, he's got a lot of physical conditions as well. So there's been a lot of staying in hospitals. And I was like, nobody is there 24/7. I am. And therefore, it's going to have to be me that does the majority of this work. So yes, you can get a diagnosis, but in Perth and Kinross, where I live, a diagnosis means getting then recommended to a charity. And I volunteer at the ADHD group because I've known them for the last 20 years. And I'm a mentor for other parents. And yeah, that's all they've got. They've got us. They've got charities. They don't have. So even if you do manage to get a diagnosis, that starts a journey, as it did for my eldest son, of acceptance and being able to express things. Yeah. Because obviously the reason I'm here is because he had suicidal ideation and has had that for the last 10 years as well. And I've had to manage that as well as managing me, as well as managing my youngest. And that dynamic in a household of 3 neurodivergent people, which, I mean, I'm sure you can imagine, is challenging.
So being in a supportive community is, from what you're saying, the most important thing, where you can speak to other carers and other parents who are on a similar journey.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
And I think you know that because of the Canmore Trust and, you know, just the walk we went on the other day and all the walks that you guys do, just being around somebody where you can openly be yourself and honest and just talk to people about things that are on your mind. Yeah. I don't think there's anything better than that, to be honest.
There is not. I think we're discovering that more and more. Mm-hmm. Nicky, you touched on the fact there that you are a parent. You have dealt with suicidal behaviour up close and personal, and indeed that's one of the reasons that I've asked you to be on the Canmore Trust podcast. Please, if you can you share something of that, and in particular, your family's experience?
Yeah, so obviously Kieran has always struggled all of his life because he was different.
Kieran is your older son?
Kieran's my oldest son, yeah.
30.
And
now 30.
31 in August, yeah. And because he was different too, didn't really have friends. I mean, he did all the typical like lining trains up and stuff, but I thought that was great. It's just like, this is amazing. He's like really neat like me and really likes things in a certain way. He likes the order. And I think I'm starting to realize that like the type A personalities are obviously incredibly susceptible to suicide, and because our brains are very black and white, or can be very black and white, especially neurodivergent brains. But yeah, so he he just grew up like that, and I was worried about him, but not overly worried about him because he was a straight A student, and he was so focused since he was a young boy. He'd wanted to be an engineer. That was his goal. That was what he was doing. He got his first train set at age 1 and he was driving steam trains by the time he was 6 or 7, little ones, round tracks in Bristol where we lived. And he then just went on this path of, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to do it. Just went ahead, did it, and then burnt out, like crashed and burnt. Because he realised that's not what he wanted to do, but then he didn't know what he wanted to do. And being neurodivergent, he was just like, well, what happens now then? What do I do now? And had an eating disorder from that point to try and get some control back of his life. Sort of floundered around trying to figure out what he wanted to do. Went to Abertay Uni, tried that, excelled in that, and was like, no, I don't want to do this either. I don't know what I want to do. There's no point in living. And I just don't want to be here. And he used to go out for walks during lockdown, and I didn't know if he was coming back. And that was kind of terrifying. And it got to the point where I just rang the doctor and I said, if he does anything, I am holding you responsible and I will sue you and make sure that like whatever happens to him, you are accountable for, because I was screaming at everybody and nobody was listening to me. And I didn't know what to do. I'm good in situations where I can research things and find out and then do it. But if I don't know what to do, and obviously I've never been in that situation, I'm in another one now, I don't know what to do. And then I start getting ill. Then my mental health starts suffering, because it's like grief. If you can't turn something off and it's there 24/7,
Sure.
what do you do with it?
Yeah. So what happened to Kieran?
He got put on a waiting list.
And I should say that we're discussing Kieran today with his permission.
His permission, yeah.
Yes.
He got put on a waiting list. 6 years later, he got his diagnosis. And I would say that's been transformative for him. He still doesn't want to be alive. I don't think he's ever going to want to be, because the world is such a complicated, confusing place for him. He never finds kind of real connection with anybody. And even when he does, it's complicated. It feels like he just gets dealt, difficult hand after difficult hand.
Yeah.
And on top of being neurodivergent, that's just too much for him.
Okay. You raise the issue that there are people like Kieran who can be suicidal on a daily basis. Mm. Yeah. That is their norm.
Yep.
Yeah. There will be people watching and listening to this podcast that think, how can that be? Surely I can understand there are phases of suicidal thinking, but to live there forever, that must be utterly exhausting. And as someone who's lived through a phase of significant suicidality and knowing how utterly exhausting that period of my life was, utterly exhausting. I mean, couldn't get out of my bed. Yeah. How does Kieran get up in the morning? How does he put his boxers on and his socks on, and how does he go for a shower? How do all of these things fit into the pattern of life and living?
I'm not entirely sure. I mean, I think I'd be very rich if I figured that one out, wouldn't I? Because it's about resilience, and I guess it's about me being bossy, being a bossy mom. He got really ill, and I knew something was desperately wrong, and he wanted to go to bed and go to sleep, because he didn't care if he died. He doesn't care if he dies. So I'm like, no. So I marched him to the hospital, and tests, and months later got diagnosed with ulcerative colitis. So then he got something else on his plate, a lifelong illness to deal with. Wow. And obviously that exacerbated the suicidal thoughts, and what's the point? And I'm just bossy. I'm just, I mean, obviously I don't want him to die. And I think I struggle with this, and we've talked about this. But at the same time, I do not want him to suffer for every single day of his life. Yeah. So I'm in a very conflicted place. And when people are always saying, to people, just don't commit suicide, just stay, I do feel like that's coming from a selfish point of view, because for me, that would be for me if I asked him to stay when he's in that much pain. And at the same time, I do understand that his brain is going through a lot, and that he's struggling, and that is fixable too. Yeah. So I'm in between a rock and a hard place.
So on one level, we're talking about an individual having agency and autonomy. But on another level, we're saying, but to allow that, you have to be of sound mind. You have to be in a place where society, however that's signed off, says you're well. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's a terrific tension to be living with.
It is when you're never well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's difficult.
Yeah. If Kieran were here, do you think he would say there was one day in 2019 or 2020 that I felt completely well?
No. I don't think he would say that. I think you and I have spoken about gold nuggets, and this came from that film. I can't remember whether it was you or Duncan that said it, but finding these moments in the day that are amazing and wonderful and nourish you is the best I think he's ever going to get. Those moments do not sustain him. They're not enough to sustain him. But I feel like he does have them. I live in hope that he has them. It can't, it's torture watching somebody you love in that much pain all the time.
And will Kieran be able to say to you at some point, that was a good day, Mum?
I mean, we had a good afternoon yesterday.
Yeah.
I don't know if he enjoyed the morning very much, but we had an okay afternoon. I feel like that just doesn't stick though in his head. Like some people, that sticks. And I don't know if that's a neurodivergent thing or just a Kieran thing, but it doesn't seem to stick when the good things happen.
So that would be one of the golden nuggets that we talked about in the film.
Yeah, but you collected them and you built on them. And
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he's got a hole in his bag.
Okay. That bag has got a hole in the bottom of it. The golden nuggets are falling out the bottom. Mm-hmm. Fascinating. Yeah. And then Of course, Kieran has gone on to write the most amazing reflection on how life feels and how life is. Yeah, can you say something about that?
Yeah, that's called Getting Better. And I guess I tried to tell him that he needed an outlet for something. I was trying everything. I'm just a fixer. And I've come to realize that you can't fix everybody and not everybody wants to be fixed. And so I've had to take a step back and learn just to sit with people that don't want to be fixed. And especially like my son, which is probably the hardest person to sit with, that doesn't want to be fixed because, I gave him life and I treasure him and he doesn't want it. And it's just like you giving somebody the best gift you could ever give them, and then they're like, I don't want that. And you're like, oh, okay, well, that's harsh, but reality. So yeah, he just started writing a book, poured his heart and soul into it. It is emotional to read it, but at the same time, incredible. And a lot of people, when they read it, said, oh, can you write something a bit more cheerful? It's a bit miserable. It's a bit depressing. It's like sort of the point. That's sort of the point. I guess better out than in. And, that was his way of, I guess, dealing with everything at the time.
We'll put a reference in the podcast to the book so that people can access it if they would like to do so, because I found it a profoundly formative read for me, understanding a bit more about the neurodiverse world and the neurodivergent brain and individual. So I'd really recommend it to many people. So we'll put that link in the podcast. One of the reasons that the Canmore Trust podcast exists is to offer a place of accountability, and particularly for those who have been impacted by suicide and who feel that the system, however we define the system, hasn't really done the best by them or could have done better. They could have been dealt with better by the system. And if necessary, to hold the system to account. What lessons should we learn from your experience as a family and as a mum?
Yeah, I struggled with this question. Because systems don't work, period. They just don't work. They can't work. Everybody's too individual. Neurodivergent people are too individual. If you have met one autistic person, you've met one autistic person. You cannot then say, go on.
I'm just going to stop you there, and I'll be criticised for cutting in on the conversation. But I just want to just hold how profound that statement is, that systems just don't work. Because government pours billions into systems, okay? And I think I'm beginning to agree with you that the systems are so broken that we're just pouring good money after bad. And this concept of community care, this concept of people being able to reach out to those who are on the same or similar journey has to be the way ahead. It is the most powerful thing. So now I'm answering your question. I'm really sorry.
It's okay. Yeah, but you wouldn't go for a plumber if you had toothache. And how can you... I've never understood this, and this is my neurodivergent brain, so don't come at me, people. But how can people in Parliament that get assigned a job like the health service, and they've had no experience of that, no dealings with that, nothing, but that's then their job, and then they make decisions for people that they have no idea how those people function on a daily basis and what they go through. Yeah. Make that make sense to me, because I can't make that make sense.
Well, a good starting point would be reading Kieran's book, probably. Yeah.
Well, and a few others I could recommend, but yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But it makes no sense to me, because, you need people that are qualified. You need people that run the NHS should be people that are living within the NHS and working within the NHS. And the people, do you remember that programme where they used to go back to the factory floor, the boss?
Yes.
And then he was like, what is happening? What is this? Why does that happen? They haven't got a clue. These people sitting in places of power have not got a clue how things actually work and what people need, and they're not asking them either.
Amazing. So we've got broken systems. So We need someone with experience of whatever the system is dealing with to make suggestions for helping that. I'm not sure we can fix them, but at least improve them.
Yeah.
But we also need to develop this sense of community, yeah? And reaching out early on the journey, early in the process, to those who are on the same journey or a similar journey.
Yeah.
Yeah? So
Without a doubt. I mean, I know people are scared about getting labelled, but your children are being labelled anyway. They're being labelled naughty, and they're being labelled rude, and they're being labelled no hopers that will never get a job. They are getting labels. So don't be scared of getting a label, because you've got them anyway. Everybody judges everybody based on something.
Yeah.
You know, it could be a million different things. That's why there's so many prejudice. I can't even say that word. Prejudiced around the place.
Yeah.
Because people just, you know, they don't understand other people, and they don't try to understand other people.
Help me with something, if you would. So it's not uncommon for us in the Canmore Trust to, when we're working with someone who's lost to suicide, as part of their grief journey as an adult, they may have lost a son or a daughter, for example, that they discover on their grief journey that they are neurodivergent. And then there is a very painful moment for that individual when they look back and realise that the son or daughter they've lost may also have been neurodivergent. And I feel the emotion of that, actually, because that happens really frequently. And just catching the emotion of that, because it's already a guilt-filled journey, losing a kid. And suddenly you've got the added burden of, if I'd just known, if my kid had just had support and a helpful diagnosis on the journey, things could have been different.
Yes, but that can't be only down to you to notice. Everybody needs to be noticing that. Healthcare professionals need to notice that. Teachers need to notice that. As a parent, and especially if you're a neurodivergent parent, you won't notice any difference in your child because they're exactly like you. I didn't notice any different in my child until my other child got diagnosed. And then I started looking at my other child and going, oh, that's not normal then. That's not like whatever normal is that, but that's not typical.
But there must have been an opportunity for Kieran to be diagnosed at some
Hundreds.
point. So what was not right?
He was a straight A student that didn't make a fuss and didn't. In fact, other children used to get sat by him in school because he was such a good example and such a good boy. And that was the problem. Because if you're masking to that extent, to the extent Kieran was, to the extent I always have as an adult, people don't notice that there's anything wrong with you because you're making them not notice there's anything wrong with you.
Hang on a minute. What you're telling me is the education system, at least then, only recognised neurodivergent kids when they were naughty?
Yes, because the stereotypical neurodivergent, ADHD especially, is young boy climbing up the tables and chairs and causing havoc and biting people and shouting.
So shine a light on this, if you would. So take us back to Kieran as a kid. Yep. What opportunities did the education system have to pull back the curtains and say, this grade A student, we need to support?
Nobody's that perfect. That is not rocket science. Nobody is that perfect.
Okay. So was that part of the OCD?
Presenting, yes, if somebody is presenting as that put together and that perfect and that amazing in every aspect of their life, I would look at them and be like, no.
Okay. That's really interesting. Yeah. Because I think there is and this is so helpful for the neurotypical world to understand, because I think there is a picture out there that the neurodivergent kid is the naughty, misbehaving kid.
Or the one struggling academically.
Yeah. But you're presenting quite another picture. Yeah. And both sets of kids, all sets of kids, wherever they are on the spectrum, require diagnosis and support.
Yes.
There's a challenge.
It's all a challenge.
To another broken system. As part of your sharing, I want to ask you this question. What do we need to know about neurodiversity and its links to suicide?
I've got stats. So between 66% of autistic adults have experienced suicidal thoughts, with up to 35% planning or attempting suicide. That is a lot higher. So that is 14% versus 2.7% in the neurotypical community. This comes from an essay that I wrote. And I think my biggest thing, and the thing that I've spoken to you about most, is that I would never reach out to a service. I just don't speak to people I don't know. And even texting them, I couldn't. And when I was in a bit of a crisis, who did I reach out to? You, because I knew you already. And I think that's the thing we're missing. We need, first of all, things, I'm not going to say systems, but things need to be tailored to individuals. And we need to actually understand them and what they need. We need to bring them in on the conversation. Because when I had a breakdown after my mum died, and because she was the one that did and said everything for me, and then she was gone, and I was like, okay, I don't know how to exist now.
Okay.
And I feel like that was my person. Everybody needs a person. And that's what we're missing. That's what we need. And if you go out for big walks like we did with the Canmore Trust and you meet somebody and it's like, oh, I can talk to this person, that could save your life.
Magical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Life-saving.
So what you're saying is we've made this hugely complex and we're blaming the system, the brokenness of the system. And whilst I'm sure it is broken in many places and needs shored up and supported and in many ways transformed and changed, we're back to community again. Mm-hmm. We're back to all of us being able to reach out to an individual or a group of people that we trust. Yeah. And so connection there is so important. Yeah. Peer support is so very important.
Yeah.
And we've lost that sense of community really in society generally, far less when we're in desperate need. We've lost that sense of community and society.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I was growing up, my kitchen door was never locked at home. Like my mum and dad had people, like it was like a train station some days. There's just people in and out of the kitchen and they'd all have a little chat about whatever. They're feeling a bit upset or something had happened or... That's kind of gone. You don't even know your neighbour 90% of the time now, let alone speak to them over the fence.
Yeah. Wow, there's a challenge. I wonder if part of school education is to encourage that openness and
we need to
neighbourliness.
We need to teach people in like children from a very, very young age about their emotional like sense of who they are, about who they are as a person. We need to be teaching more about themselves. Who are you? What do you need? What will keep you healthy and happy? And we need to do that from a very, very young age. That's just lacking.
Yeah.
We teach them algebra and things that, if they're going to grow up to do something with that, great. If they're not, what's the point in that? Why aren't we just teaching? Why aren't we trying to create rounded humans that can look after themselves? Everything that I've learned through the ADHD group, through all the training I've done with all the different organisations, has all been about self-reflection. And university did that for me more than anything, I think, taught me how to be even more reflective. I've always been very negatively reflective.
Yeah.
And it taught me to be more positively reflective.
Wow.
I still struggle with that though.
Yeah. One of the things that we come across frequently is the issue of anger on the suicide journey. It's common. Have you found anger? Have you been angry? Are you still angry?
I've been angry when I've reached out to people and they haven't helped me. Obviously, I was angry at the doctor because I'd been calling them and they're like, he's an adult, we can't do anything. I'm like, but he's going to take his life and I'm telling you that and you're not doing anything. So I got angry with them. When I phoned them, I was very angry. Because I wasn't being listened to. And I feel like everybody's got a right to be angry if they're not listened to. I feel like that's a fundamental part of being a human, is somebody listening to you.
Yeah.
And especially as a carer with adult children that I try and advocate for, I struggle with communication at the best of times. So if I am trying to communicate something to you, please try and listen to it and try and answer me and, try and understand what I'm telling you. And I feel that's just lacking in everywhere. It's lacking. And that's why groups like the ADHD group in Perth are just, I think they've got something like 60,000 parents and there's 3 of them. And there's,
Wow.
Some of them are voluntary and stuff. And it's just like the government is referring parents to this service because it is the best service for the parents. But there's only so much 3 people can do.
Yeah.
And these people need understanding, and they need connection, and they need hope above all. And that's why I get wheeled in all the time. look at what this woman's done. And, that's why I'm there, because I'm like, I was like you. I was desperate. I was desperate when my son was young to try and get help. And then I just started realizing I'd got to do it all myself. And some people can't do that for a billion reasons. They've got like more kids that need, they've got different challenges, physical challenges, and they can't do it. But I had to do it. I didn't have a choice.
Yeah. There's all kinds of models out there about dealing with suicidal thinking. Exercise more, learn to play a musical instrument. And I'm just thinking about the complexities of what you've shared today in your family's life and Kieran's life in particular. There will be neurodivergent parents listening and watching who are concerned about suicidal thinking in their kid. Is there anything that they can do? What activities? What stuff? Come with your wisdom, please. What can you bring to the table to offer help to those individuals?
As part of staying healthy myself, I have a mental health mentor at uni who has saved my life on more than one occasion. And I was talking to her about this yesterday. And unfortunately, it's an unanswerable question, because no one size fits all. Again, I know people want to go to a service, and that service is like your mom. It provides everything that you need.
Magic wand.
Yeah, magic wand. And it's not, you have to go with these people, you have to work out. So before I got into uni, because I flunked out of school, because obviously I was, I didn't understand education back then, I had to do an open university course to get enough credits to get onto my university course. And I did a design course. And as part of that, I designed a mental health first aid kit. And in doing that, I found some people that were willing to test it for me. There was only 3 of them, very small group, so not brilliant, but they had amazing results with it. And the reason is because I worked with them to figure out what would help them, and we tailored it to them.
Okay.
So every time they were having a panic attack, or, life was getting overwhelming, they were feeling, and these were neurotypical people. They weren't even neurodivergent people. But this kit, they'd got it on them 24/7, and they could reach into it and they could use it. It was, you see, I just feel like I can't even say that word again. Advocacy is the thing that people are going to need to do, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Because systems are so broken.
Yeah.
That, if you don't do something yourself, I don't feel like anybody's coming to help.
Yeah.
And also, as I said, you can't say anything to those people in that moment to help. And it's not a one size fits all. Because like you say, go for a walk, or, read a book. Or some people, I struggle to read. I listen to audiobooks. So there's barriers there as well, especially if you're neurodivergent, that you just need to take into consideration when you're offering things to people.
Yeah. And I guess there's this sense that if you're coming at this for the first time, perhaps as a parent, thinking my kid might be neurodivergent, there's this panoply of diagnosable conditions, and even that term takes me to a medical model of diagnosing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess there's this panic. Is there bits of many conditions and stuff in there, and coming to the most tailored support for that individual clearly doesn't happen quickly. Clearly that happens over a long period of time. Is it exhausting?
Yes, it's exhausting, but it doesn't even have to happen over such a long period of time if you listen to the parents or the caregivers, because they are already, in a lot of cases, using things that do help, and they have things in place that help. And so if people just listen to them, if this is what, I mean, people have arguments with schools constantly about this is what my child needs. And I made, like, my youngest son a passport, and everywhere he went, so when he tried to join the Vivas, I gave them this passport, and they were like, oh, what's this? And I was like, well, this is why he might have a meltdown. This is, it just said everything. It was just like him and what might happen. And they were like, oh. But they took it on board, and they were brilliant with it. And as such, he was quite successful there. Whereas when I took him for an operation once, and I handed the nurse the same passport, she was mortified. And she's like, I don't have time to read that, and I don't have time to like accommodate things. And I'm like, well, then you're in for a rough ride if you're going to try and give them an injection and stuff, because, you know, there's certain ways of doing certain things with people that are neurodivergent and cannot like have something change on them last minute. And so
I think that's so helpful. What a great idea. Things like, I don't do touch very well, don't give me a hug. You could hand it to someone and say, yeah, why are we not doing that?
I suppose people, again, you see, I'm neurodivergent. I don't understand that whole nuanced, oh, you've got to understand me. Why don't you understand me? So, well, you didn't tell me. You've got to tell me if you want me to understand you. That's the clearest thing in the world to me.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're thinking right now. I don't know how you're feeling. So if I want to know that, I can say to you, John, how are you feeling?
Yeah.
And then you can tell me. And then as a neurodivergent person, I'll be like, no, he's not feeling like that at all. Because we have this like radar. People seem to think that neurodivergent people don't have empathy and don't have feelings. If anything, it's the absolute opposite. Heightened.
Yeah.
And yeah, so we are like little detectors of people that are not doing okay and saying they're doing okay. But that's confusing, because why say you're doing okay when you're not doing okay?
Yeah.
I don't understand all of that.
Nicky, this is fascinating. Great conversation. What have you learnt about yourself on this journey?
That I was a horrendous child. My poor parents. I mean, they both passed away, unfortunately. Otherwise, I would be apologising to them on a daily basis. And having been through some of those things with my own children as well, and still am. And I'm like, oh.
When you say appalling, do you mean you were at the naughty end of the spectrum?
I wouldn't say naughty as much as opinionated,
okay,
stubborn.
Well, clearly that hasn't changed.
Black and white. That has not changed, but at least now I apologise for it.
No, it's your superpower. Yeah.
It doesn't make you a lot of friends.
No, but my goodness, is the whole world about making friends? It's about making difference, I would have thought. Yeah.
That can be a lonely place though, can't it?
Yeah. But you need some friends to make a difference, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
sure.
I do have some good ones. So that's
for sure. So you would apologise to your parents. Yeah. What else have you learnt about yourself on the journey?
That I have a strength and a resilience that I don't even know where it comes from.
Yeah.
My mom was my absolute life, my role model, everything. And she once said to me, I don't know how you look after those boys by yourself. And I was just, that floored me. Because this is like, she was like the person for me. Like nobody was better. She could do no wrong in my eyes. And yet she was saying that to me, the strongest person that I'd ever met. And she fought cancer once. And the second time she was like, no, I'm about quality of life, not quantity of life. Yeah. And she just wasn't going to do that. And I'm just like, how is she that? How can she be like that?
Yeah.
And she was like in awe of me. And that I just still can't get over that.
Do you take that?
No, not really.
No,
but I do think we need to teach kids resilience. We need to teach them more ways of, again, emotional regulation, how to look after themselves, that it's okay. It's okay to think that you want to die. It's okay to have those feelings. It's a human condition. It's normal. It's natural. And we need to change it. And I guess I've learned about myself that words are important, and that I've struggled from being nonverbal as a child to being who I am now, and with university and talking the way I can now. I still can't read very well, but I can speak, and using those words to try and help people and show people that all this is normal. Because like you, I went through a period where I couldn't get off my couch after my mum died, and I'd had a breakdown, and I came home and I just couldn't function as a human being.
Yeah.
My brain was broken.
Yeah.
And to get from there to here, people do not realise what that takes. But if we can do it, then anybody can do it.
So if I say to you today, you're amazing, you're doing a great job,
then it's like it's like a vampire garlic. I don't like it.
No.
I don't like it. And I think I don't like it because it's that thing about if I start thinking about it, I'll think about what I actually do, and I'm not sure I can cope with that. It's almost like my brain implodes a bit.
Can you just take it at a superficial level?
I mean,
what is that?
What's the point in that?
What's the point? Yeah, it's deeper nothing. Yeah, let's deeper go home. Yeah, great. The suicide numbers in the UK in general are not going down. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What's going on?
everybody's alone and isolated and looking for something more, something deeper. We've all gone online. We've all become superficial. You and I are very real things in an increasingly fake world. And how do you live in a fake world? I struggled all my life living in a world I didn't fit into. I feel like everybody's feeling like that now, whether they're neurodivergent or not. People need connection with other people, and people that are neurodivergent struggle with that. And it's not that they don't need it.
Yeah.
They just struggle to do it.
Yeah. Or to be understood.
Because as you just said, go deep or go home. I mean, I don't know how that sounds, but it's a phrase that is really relevant, because my son wants that kind of conversation. He wants to talk about death and the stars, and he doesn't want to know what the weather's doing. He can see that. He can look out the window. It's not important. We're talking about too many things that just aren't important, and not enough things that are very, very important, like these conversations.
Yeah. Fantastic. Have you been suicidal?
Not to the point where I would kill myself, no. I've been hopeless. I feel like it's a very different thing. I was very hopeless after my mum died, and I kind of gave up in the sense that I asked for help. That's me giving up. And I did that. And I've thought, what if I just drove my car off a bridge? So I've had thoughts like that. But my sense of responsibility to the people that I care for is the overriding force in my life.
Amazing. So for me, I had a phase when I was suicidal. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then I entered a phase which was through a different threshold, which was, I don't want to kill myself, but I don't want to be here anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I see these as two different phases.
That's the phase Kieran's in now, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a fascinating journey for me, because I guess until I'd experienced that, I would have thought those were actually the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
But let me tell you, they are absolutely not the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think in discussions I've had with many folks through the Canmore Trust, that's a really helpful differential. Yeah. Do you want to kill yourself today? Yeah. Let's have that discussion. Or are you someone who has reached a place of hopelessness or abject poverty or whatever it is that says, I just don't want to be here anymore?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That discussion is really important. That differential is really important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of the population in that place over there where they just, they don't know what to do anymore. They don't have enough money. They don't have enough money for food. And things are pretty dire. Can
we deal with poverty? Can we pick that up for a second? Yeah.
Ask Andy Burnham. I don't know. I'm not the next Prime Minister. That's his job to answer. Again, you can't deal with problems like that with a question. To deal with poverty, you've got to deal with all the issues that surround that and everything that's causing it. I am not Aristotle. I am not.
You're not Aristotle.
I cannot think to that level of I try on a daily basis to think. I get a problem in my head and then I'll forget to eat, go to the toilet or anything, because that is all consuming to me. Yeah. And at the moment, that is about how we save people's lives that are not reaching out to services. That's all consuming to me at the moment.
Yeah. But there's an army of you, because Karen McKeown has been on this podcast, and you know Karen well now. And I'm so impressed with the army that's emerging. Yeah. And let me tell you, I ain't standing in the way of this army.
You're kind of the leader of the army, aren't you?
Oh, do you think so?
I would say so.
You're an amazing group of people, inspirational group of people who just, you don't even try to go through the door, you just knock the wall down.
I'll back at you. You just do it in a more polite way.
Yeah.
We've got a sledgehammer. You just chip away at it.
Brilliant. If you had a blank sheet of paper and an unlimited budget, please tell me what you would do today to bring suicide numbers down.
Having spoken to a lovely wife, obviously education is huge in so many forms. But I'm a film and media student, so I would make more conversations like this more readily available to people. I would have, so there's a TV show called, I think it's The A Word or something like that, about autism, about a little boy with autism. I would make that mainstream. Neurodivergent people need to be in every soap opera, in every TV show, every film. So do suicidal people. So do people that are living with suicidal ideation, that have attempted suicide, that successfully achieve suicide. We need to see that. We need to see that whole journey. We need to understand the nuance and complexities of it. For me, film and TV is always reflecting what's going on in society. And I feel like because still a vast majority of people watch those things, you can reach people there in a way that you just can't with politics because you don't have the red tape.
Yeah.
You do with a lot of films. So I made a podcast about that. But, you know, if there's like smaller people out there doing it, then you can get some messages out there.
And I think we've seen that with our own short film Upstream. We've certainly seen it with The Low Road.
Mm-hmm.
Every time that film is shown, there is transformational impact. You know, people respond to it and say, "That's me. Please, can I join the community and be helped?" Really, really. So I completely agree with you. I think we're underusing.
Yeah.
But the story I hear from the filmmakers around Netflix and Hollywood and even Bollywood are saying, don't mention the word suicide. We don't want suicide in films.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a real, portcullis coming down.
Don't even get me started with gatekeeping, though.
Yeah.
Like in every form of this industry. I was so disillusioned when I started uni, and I got in there and I just thought, oh, I'm not going to be able to say anything I want to say or do anything I want to do or make the films I want to say. So fine, I'll do it myself and 10 people can listen to it and those 10 people can get something from it. Because I'd rather do that than comply to
Brilliant.
whatever it is that they want me to do.
Yeah.
You know, do it this way and don't talk about that and do this and be careful with that. No, we need honest conversations. We need people talking about these things. We need people showing these things to people. Normalize suicide, normalize mental health conditions.
And maybe that's the next phase of purpose for you. Yeah, you're not in this role for nothing. Yeah. So, yeah, let's see where that goes. I'm excited for you. Difficult question, but you've got great experience of suicide and suicidality at so many different levels across society, and perhaps particularly in the neurodivergent community. What have you learnt about suicide and how to prevent it?
What I've learned about suicide is that it's a human condition. We're all dying anyway. And some people just, I guess, do it quicker. The thing that I think researching that I've learned about it is that it's been around since we've been around. It's not new. And it's been philosophically debated for years. And, you know, why some people do it, why some people don't do it. I don't know how you stop it. I don't think you can stop it. I feel like we need to. I did CBT, which is cognitive behavioural therapy, for my OCD and a couple other things. And it was about changing the way I thought about things, changing my attitude. And I think you can't change somebody else's attitude, no matter how hard you try. But we don't understand enough about it. We don't understand enough about the causes of it. And there's obviously different reasons people do it. And I think that's the complicated part.
Yeah.
Because it's not black and white, and some people do it because they're overwhelmed by systems. They've been pushed to the edge by things. And I feel like those people need practical help. So I feel like the kind of solutions you need to give people are so varied again and individual. We need to tailor these things to individual people. But practical help, self-advocacy, those are two things I feel personally would make a massive difference. They've made a big difference to me and my son. So yeah, I think they would help other people.
Fantastic. Really appreciate that. Such wisdom. You clearly are someone who sits at home and twiddles your thumbs on a daily basis with very little things to do. But do you have any hobbies or pastimes? What we've already said that you find reading a struggle at times, but you listen to stuff. Tell us a bit about Nicky Foley, the quiet, reflective individual, and her pastimes.
Well, any pastime I have has to fit around caring because that's my 24/7 job. looking after my sons, who both have high needs and take up a lot of time, which I don't, I wouldn't do anything else. But yeah, so I realized I could podcast from my couch. So I do that. So I did a podcast because I realized when I started at uni and I did a podcasting course, I was horrendous at it, really bad. And I thought, I need to get better at this. How am I going to do that? Oh, I'll just do it, because that's how you get better at things, isn't it? You just do them.
Yeah.
And then I got a radio show on hospital radio. And again, I can never just be like, yeah, I'll play all the songs I want to play and talk a load of rubbish. And I'm like, no, I can do something with this. What can I do with it? And at first I was like, can I make it into a neurodivergent thing? And I'm like, no, not really, because that's a bit complicated. How do you do that in a radio show? Then I came up with a formula of carers, and they're lonely and isolated, and I know how they feel, and it's like, write about what you know, isn't it? So do what you know. And so then, I started doing a radio show for them on hospital radio. And then that's probably it with caring. I go walking and I listen to podcasts when I can. Yeah. And I read, but I read through audiobooks because it's too hard to not.
Do you ever have a day when it's a Nicky day?
No.
Never.
What's a Nicky day?
When you just have, you wake up.
How do I do that?
Exactly. Yeah.
The practicalities of that are not currently available.
But maybe if the community were to augment itself to allow that to happen.
Again, complicated.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to try and get time respite from my son and stuff like that, but he was complicated, and you need somebody that understands that to help with that.
Yeah. Well, maybe that's something to pitch towards, a Nicky Day. Maybe we could have National Nicky Day, where everyone gets a chance just to do their own thing.
I don't know what my own thing is anymore. I've been a carer for 30 years.
Well,
I'm not sure what it is.
There you are. Yeah. Have you any unfulfilled aspirations for life?
I mean, I go after what I want all the time. You know that about me. So I wanted to get a degree. I got a degree. I'm doing a master's. Kind of want to do a PhD now, because my tutor was like, the master's has to ask the question, the PhD has to answer it. I'm like, oh, great. I'm just going to be in education now till the end of my days. I guess I just want my kids to be okay. And if doing this means that they can be okay, then this is what I want to be doing, which is finding some kind of solution.
Brilliant.
Through gaming or some kind of community that people can engage with without it feeling like they're engaging with it.
Yeah. I love it. So that's the next phase of life. PhD, Dr. Nicky.
Well, the master's dissertation question is, how do we catch those people that won't reach out to services?
Yeah.
Big question.
Yeah. Well, you haven't completed it yet, so maybe you can come back on and give us that answer.
Yeah, I'm researching it at the moment.
Yeah.
It's a year away.
We're nearly done. I'm sure you're exhausted with the discussion that we've had. It's been a really pivotal discussion, a really, really helpful discussion. But one of the most important questions I can ask you is, how does Nicky Foley stay safe in the midst of all that you are challenged with and deal with on a daily basis?
Sarcasm and sense of humour helps a lot, as you well know.
I would never have guessed. He says sarcastically.
I try and find the funny side in everything. In fact, if I'm not finding the funny side, I know I'm in deep, deep trouble.
Okay.
I know then I'm like, oh, okay, I need some extra help here. I've had trauma counselling recently. Like I said, I've got a mental health mentor at uni, and my university are great at helping people. Again, isolated, depends who you get, depends how you go about it. Should be more easily accessible, but either way, they're good for me. And then, just reaching out. And I struggle with that.
Yeah.
I don't want to look like I can't cope with it all, because everybody thinks I can cope with it all, and now I've got this precedent that I've got to keep up.
There's an aura which you can't let slip.
Yeah.
I've got one final question, but the penultimate question, I guess. You talked earlier about masking and how as a kid you hadn't learned to mask. I take it that implies that you've learned to mask. Yeah?
Yeah, I'm sitting here doing this, looking like I'm fine. This is me masking.
Okay.
Yeah, because as a very young child, I just thought you could do and say whatever you wanted and be how you were.
Yeah.
And so I'd stim, and if you don't know what that is, it's like you can do vocal stims, you can make noises, I very often when I'm in a supermarket do things because I find the environment so challenging.
Yeah.
And the people would look at me, and I soon realised that I can't do any of that stuff that makes me regulate and helps me, because people are like, why are you doing that? And it's weird, and I can't tell you how I'm really thinking. That's why I had a breakdown after my mum died. I started thinking I was going to hurt people. That was part of intrusive thoughts with OCD. Instead of hurting myself, I was like, oh no, what if I hurt somebody that I love? And the psychiatrist was going, you wouldn't be thinking that if you were going to do that. I'm like, but it feels real.
Yeah.
I've been there with those thoughts. I know that your brain is not being honest with you when you're in that state.
Yeah. Wow. So interesting. So insightful. Nicky, my final question to everyone on the podcast is the most difficult question of all. And I find it a very difficult question even to ask. But if someone is watching or listening to the podcast today and they are actively suicidal in thinking and planning, what would you want to say to them?
Firstly, I struggle to understand why you find that question difficult, because to me, it's the most obvious question. And it's as I just said, my brain was not telling me the truth. Your brain is not telling you the truth.
I think maybe you're misunderstanding me. The question is really about the emotional impact of it.
Yeah, but that's irrelevant in a sense. It's irrelevant in a sense because their brain's lying to them, and it's them that I need to be speaking to. It's not the people it will affect that I need to be speaking to. It's them, and their brain is currently lying to them.
Okay.
And that was the point with me. I thought I would never get off that couch again. I thought I would never have the kind of life that I used to have again.
Yep.
And look at me now.
Yep.
Here I am.
Yep.
And I actually got in touch with somebody called Clancy Martin, who you're going to be introduced to and going to fall in love with, as I did. Clancy has been trying to kill himself since he was 6 years old and has written a book called How Not to Kill Yourself.
Yeah.
So if you are feeling like you want to kill yourself, do it tomorrow and read that book today.
Brilliant.
Because that's his advice. I asked him for a quote and he said, wait till tomorrow. You can't see it right now, but the world's full of good surprises for you. And please take a walk.
Wow. Wow. That's profound.
He is.
Nicky, thanks so much for being on the Canmore Trust podcast. And I wish you would take our thanks to Kieran as well, to both your boys, in fact, for allowing you and supporting you. And
That's debatable.
No, I don't think so. And you know, being here today, thanks to the whole family for the extent of wisdom and what you've shared with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Really appreciate you being here. And
really appreciate you.
Thanks so much. Well, thank you for being here for this episode of the Canmore Trust podcast. I really hope that you have benefited from hearing so much of what Nicky shared with us and the insight and the wisdom, the understanding that she has brought to not just to the podcast, but to the wider debate and the wider suicide community. I'm so grateful to Nicky for sharing what she shared today. Undoubtedly, this topic will have stirred emotional activation for many of us. And so we want you to be safe. Your safety is very important to us here at the Canmore Trust. So if anything is activated within you which is causing you some concern for yourself or for others, would you please reach out and be in touch? You can engage with the Canmore Trust by emailing admin@thecanmoretrust.co.uk. You can call Papyrus on their 24/7 Hope line on 0300 102 2470, or engage with Papyrus by texting HOPE, HOPE, to 88247, or you can email Pat, PAT, at papyrus-uk.org. You can call the Samaritans any time of the day or night on 116 123. And in Scotland, if you are over the age of 16 and feeling low, anxious or depressed, then you can engage with Breathing Space. The number for Breathing Space is 0800 83 85 87 and is available Monday to Thursday, 6 p.m. till 2 a.m. and then Friday, 6 p.m. till Monday, 6 a.m. They also have a web chat service which is available Monday to Friday, 6 p.m. till 2 a.m. and Saturday and Sunday, 4 p.m. till 12 a.m. The Canmore Trust's website, www.thecanmoretrust.co.uk, has an extensive list of resources for anyone seeking help on any aspect of mental ill health, well-being or suicide. Please take time to use it. And so if you're struggling, please reach out. And if you're concerned about someone you know, a family member, a friend, a loved one, a colleague, please also reach out. Thank you so much for being here today, and we look forward to seeing you on another edition of the Canmore Trust podcast. Bye-bye.